Good evening, parents of Club Y.E.S students and Wayzata High School students. My name is Brenda Badger, and it is a pleasure to have you join us this evening at our virtual Club Y.E.S parent meeting for 21-22. I am the Club Y.E.S program manager here at Wayzata High School. It is my full-time position. Club Y.E.S is a joint program of Wayzata High School and Wayzata Community Education. So thank you for joining us. This evening, we're going to cover the club in a broad overview. We're going to give you kind of general information about the club and some specific details as well. And joining me this evening are students from the Club Y.E.S Leadership Board, and they will do some of the presenting throughout this presentation. We will use our chat feature if you have any questions during the meeting. So feel free to type in a question and myself or one of the students leaders will try our best to answer your question. If your question is very specific to your student, maybe around registration in ePay or a special concern you have specific to your students, I would suggest emailing me directly versus putting it in the chat. We are recording this meeting for the sake for other parents who were not able to join us and to just have it on file. Again, with that, thank you for joining us. And at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Sophie Trainer, one of our student leaders in Club Y.E.S.
Hi, everybody. My name is Sophie, and I'm just going to be talking about a brief overview of Club Y.E.S and why you should join. So yeah, that's the next slide. So the mission statement for Club Y.E.S is to develop and instill an awareness, understanding, and appreciation of one's community, to value citizenship and the responsibility each citizen has to help others. Through service, one will gain life skills and enrich his/her life. So I personally love Club Y.E.S. I've been involved with it since my freshman year. And some of the reasons I love it so much is because it truly fits into anybody's schedule. And no matter what you have going on, if your student maybe works a job during the week so they can only volunteer on the weekends, we have projects for that. If it's vice versa, we have projects for that. And you can pretty much make your own schedule. So if you want to do like 1 hour every 2 weeks, you can do that. And you can also choose it based off of your area of interest. I know something I really like to do is going to the senior citizen homes, and I like to sing there and I like to play piano, and that's something that's geared towards my interests. So that's something I love to do. And basically anybody can do that based off of their interests. And another big thing, especially after COVID, is the need for volunteers. And I know this is probably really obvious, but the need is higher than you might think. And as leaders, we have lots of discussions about this, about how much our community really needs volunteers right now and how important you are as a Club Y.E.S volunteer just to show up to the projects. It really makes our community partners' days, especially the senior citizens that I like to go see. They just love seeing Club Y.E.S volunteers, and it's the same for every single partner that we work with. And they also rely on us a lot. I know that IOCP needs Y.E.S volunteers just to do the things they do as an organization. So we really are super important to our community. And the last thing is it's also super fun. I got involved in Club Y.E.S as a freshman because I knew people who did it. But the main reason that I got super involved with it was because I just had a ton of fun at the projects. There's a ton of stuff that you can do. I had a lot of fun volunteering at the carnivals, and you can do this with your friends. So you don't need to like think of it as, oh, I'm going to go volunteer, I have to do this. Bring some friends along and you'll have a really great time. And just remember that students can make a difference. Club Y.E.S has made a difference throughout so many lives, and it will continue to make a difference as long as we have new students coming up in the club and continuing this amazing organization. And next, I'm going to pass it over to Laura.
Hi, everyone. So if your student is interested in joining Club Y.E.S, they will need to register. And also, if they were a part of Club Y.E.S last year, they will need to re-register for this year as well. Registration can be found in ePay, and in ePay there will be 2 forms to complete. the W.E.S eligibility form and the Club Y.E.S permission form, and both of those forms need to be completed for the registration. There's no fee to join Club Y.E.S. It's completely free, but you need to make sure that you get a receipt when you check out to confirm that you have fully registered. In addition to that, registrations are processed the next day after you register, so your student won't receive an email right away. They should receive it the next day, and they'll get a welcome email, and they'll also be added to some of our online platforms that we will talk about here in a little bit. And just again, students must be registered each year to participate. If they're not registered, they cannot participate in Club Y.E.S projects, and there are no exceptions for that. It's just a safety thing. And also, they will not get access to the online platforms if they are not fully registered. Finally, the registration deadline is October 3rd. And any student who maybe wishes to join the club later in the year will have an opportunity at the beginning of semester 2 to join Club Y.E.S then if they would like. And now I'm passing it over to, let's see, Vipra next.
Hi, so I'm Vipra, and I'm going to be talking about staying connected. So we strongly advise that students read the Club Y.E.S daily emails each day because they have so much information in them that we share. And the Club Y.E.S Canvas course is another good place to check for information and for announcements. If you have any immediate questions, as Ms. Badger said earlier, you can email Mrs. Y.E.S, or you can talk to a Club Y.E.S student leader like us. But the most important for a student to do is to check for details this about almost all the information. Almost any questions can be answered by just checking the portal, so I highly recommend checking that first. And moving on to our socials, Club Y.E.S, next slide please. So Club Y.E.S has 2 social media sites, Instagram and Twitter, to share information. We make announcements and we do shout outs for volunteers. So our tweets on our Twitter are also posted to the Club Y.E.S webpage, and it can be found on the district website. So feel free to follow at WHS Club Y.E.S if you use these social media platforms. So moving on to the next slide, Club Y.E.S does have a webpage on the district website for Wayzata High School. And so general information is kept here, and it's something that you guys can check out for information. And every month, Club Y.E.S has meetings on Wednesdays after school and Thursdays before school. So we have guest speakers and students to have the opportunity to get an hour of service by attending and doing small service projects in the meet. And we'll also present a volunteer of the month who's gone above and beyond in their volunteering representing our club. Also, projects will be made and turned on the portal, so being at the meetings is to the students' advantage. And some new projects will be explained for detail. They're strongly encouraged, but if a student has a conflict, like we understand, so you view the meeting minutes and the slides on Canvas afterwards. Now I'll pass to her.
Okay. Could you guys go to the next slide? Okay, so Club Y.E.S will be using our Canvas course as our information station. So that means that almost everything related to Club Y.E.S students can find there, except for actually seeing the projects and signing up for the projects. And that will all be done in the Y.E.S portal. However, students can find portal instructions, forms, board leader contact information, details about community partners, sites we serve, forms and waivers, and more. So also at the end of each semester, students will be required to submit their hour sheets via an assignment in the Club Y.E.S Canvas course. So it's very important for students to get familiar with the Club Y.E.S Canvas course. And I'll be passing it over to Maitri.
Harshini, would you like to show, if I stop sharing my screen, would you like to show them your Canvas course?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing and you can go ahead and just give them a glimpse at the Canvas course.
Sorry, I was muted. Okay, so when you go in, this is like our general page of the Canvas course. And so when you get the invitation, when the students get the invitations to go into our Canvas course, this is what like the main page looks like. And then we have like subsections. So like the first section has just general information and like hour forms, so like how you can track your hours, and then like waiver forms and important information you might want to hear about for Club Y.E.S in general. And then we have other pages about like first how to go through the portal, and there's like step-by-step instructions on how to navigate through that. And we also have protocol guidelines, and which will also be discussed later in this video. But if you ever need to go back and look and find extra information, that can all be found. And then we have a page for service awards, and that one will be updated frequently. And then the leadership board, and something that a new page for what new members might need to know. And then this is where we keep all like the meetings info. So if you ever like miss a meeting or forgot something that was mentioned in the meeting, you can go back here and they'll be updated with the slide presentations. And if we record, then the Zoom links as well.
Thank you, Harshini. Okay, onward.
Okay, hi, I'm Maitri, and I will be going over the Y.E.S portal. So I'll just share my screen.
Our portal is really our online volunteer management system where we keep all our projects organized, where students sign up. It's a wonderful feature. It's about our second year of using the portal. Actually, 2019, 2020 was the first year we launched this online portal. And who would have known that that year would have ended with the launch of a pandemic? So, wow, was it wonderful to have an online portal to manage all the things happening in our club.
So basically, to get through the portal, you would go through the Wayzata Public Schools online website, and you would just go through login, and in login, you'd see My Apps. And then once you click My Apps, you would see the WHS hub. I'll go there now. So here you have your students have the ability to sign up for text messages, and just by clicking My Info on the left side, you'd be able to add your phone number. So basically, the hub is where all volunteers sign up for projects. Right now, I'm showing you all the projects that are open. It's super important for the volunteers to click on the project and read their descriptions. To sign up, you basically just click the button on the right that says sign up. Right now, some of these projects are filled already, so they can just sign up as a sub, which means that they can just sub in for a volunteer if they can't make it. So once you click on a project, you'll see the description on the right side, and it's really, really important to communicate with your child, because this is where like all the vaccine or mask requirements will be listed, address will be listed, and what they're required to do on the site. It's also important to communicate with your students because, especially for transportation, some of these projects will be not remote this year, obviously, and also make sure that you're comfortable with your student volunteering at a site since we're still in a pandemic.
I just want to comment too that listed under the project details, under the date and the location, there's always the name of a site contact. That's the adult in charge of that organization who would be there. And most of the time we're listing a cell phone number where that person can be reached, or at least reached during the time of the service project. The Y.E.S project managers are your Y.E.S student leaders that are helping manage the specifics of the project. So we have many things happening simultaneously, And I can't do it all and be everywhere. So our student leaders play a big role in managing projects. And then site leaders, who are your organizational contacts, are also listed in this page. These details are very important for students to be aware of and know where they can find that. Thank you, Maitri. So.
Hi, I'm Aisha and I'll be covering the Club Y.E.S expectations. So Club Y.E.S volunteers are very greatly appreciated and needed by our community. So it's very important that your child signs up for projects that they are available to go to and can make a commitment, and also projects that they want to be able to make a difference at, because they not only represent themselves, but also our club and our school to the community. And the community greatly needs us, especially during the pandemic. If for some reason your child cannot go to a service site to volunteer that day, they should communicate as soon as possible with the project supervisors as well as the site supervisors, and if possible, to find a substitute for them. And you can find subs on the portal. Their communication information will be there. So you can shoot a text to somebody like, hey, I can't make it to this project. Can you sub for me, please? And there will be multiple subs. So if you can't find one, then there's going to be another person there. And also, to make sure you get to the site, you must have your own transportation. Club Y.E.S does not provide transportation for students to get to their volunteering sites at the moment. And we also want to make sure that volunteers stay off their phones at sites so that they're engaged and active in what they're doing and that they're paying attention to their volunteering activity rather than being distracted by technological devices. We really want students to make sure that they know that what they're doing is making a true difference. I will now pass it off to, I think, Kavya.
Hello, my name is Kavya. So it is every Club Y.E.S member's responsibility to keep track of his or her volunteer hours. Students may use the Club Y.E.S volunteer hours tracking form to do so, which is on the screen. It is also in the Y.E.S office. They can find and download this form on Canvas and make sure that they stay organized so they know how many hours they need and have. Students will be able to see what Club Y.E.S projects they did under the My Info and Projects tab in the portal, and this will be very helpful to them throughout the year. At the end of a semester, students will submit their hour sheet via an assignment in Canvas by just uploading a photo of their form. Students should keep a folder of all hour forms, and they are advised to keep their hour forms all throughout high school. These forms will come in handy in their senior year when creating activity resumes for college applications. Make sure to save volunteer hour forms. It's not the responsibility of the Y.E.S office to do this. Club Y.E.S encourages its members to get a Y.E.S shirt or hoodie to wear to projects because sometimes projects require Y.E.S volunteers to wear a shirt. Y.E.S clothing orders will open on September 15th in ePay, and the deadline for ordering these shirts is September 30th. Having a t-shirt helps identify Club Y.E.S members as a volunteer and helps people know that they are there to help. Some projects require the use of the shirt.
So I want to talk a little bit, because it's probably on your mind, about how is COVID impacting Club Y.E.S and our students volunteering in the community this year. And first and foremost, I think it really comes down to using a lot of common sense. If your student is not feeling well, they should stay home. Let's say they signed up to volunteer at a carnival. The carnival is tomorrow night, and they come home today and they're not feeling well. You're going to want to, do the right thing and start checking. But if they're not feeling well and getting sick, running a fever, sore throat, beginning a cough, it wouldn't be great to the community to go out volunteering, especially now with the virus of COVID going around. So they should follow up by sending the project manager, the student leader, an email, and also even possibly notifying the site, which that information again was listed in the portal. At this time, masks are required at some of our projects. It is going on a project-to-project basis. We are asking that students always bring a mask with them to any service project, regardless of vaccination status. Some of our community organizations that we partner with have the right to ask that volunteers coming into their building show proof of vaccination. For example, we send students into senior living community nursing homes where some of our very vulnerable members of our community live. And for that sake, that organization may have decided that any volunteer serving their organization will have to show proof of vaccination. The Y.E.S office and Wayzata Public Schools is not keeping a database on student vaccination status. That is not a responsibility the district has taken on at this time. So the students may be sending that information directly to the site, but it'll tell them when they sign up if the project they're signing up for is requiring proof of vaccination. Some of our projects are outdoors, where in the community where there's a little more of a lax state on wearing a mask at this time. Whenever a student or you decides that you just want your student wearing a mask, you certainly can ask them to do so. Currently, Wayzata Public Schools has taken the stance that whenever our Y.E.S students will be serving children under the age of 12, our Y.E.S volunteers, regardless of vaccination status and regardless of whether the project is indoor and outdoor, at this time, Y.E.S volunteers will wear a mask when serving children under the age of 12. So reading the details, it's important. Things are changing. I can guarantee it'll probably change again throughout this year as we navigate this pandemic. And then we will do our best should students come down with COVID or been exposed to somebody that they were working with while at a service project. We will do our best to follow up with contact tracing. Again, it's just everyone's doing their best effort. We're serving the community, but we also want to do our best to keep our community healthy and well, so that hopefully we can all stay in school and continue to go about our community life. If you have any questions about the parameters related to health and safety and COVID this year, feel free to call me or email me directly. Student leaders may not always have the latest information on this. However, I'm trying really hard to keep everybody up to date as we navigate this pandemic. The next slide that hopefully you can see is that another challenge we run into in this wonderful state of Minnesota is the weather. And we do projects pretty much 7 days a week, 365 days a year. And Mother Nature is not always in a good mood. So some days she gives us some nasty weather. Here are the weather guidelines. If Wayzata Public Schools decides to cancel after school activities on a winter day because of snow or something, then all Club Y.E.S projects will be canceled. We follow the decisions of Wayzata Public Schools. If Wayzata Public Schools doesn't cancel, however, we have evening projects or weekend projects. Stay tuned because some of our service sites may decide to shut down or close early, and we will communicate that information as soon as it becomes available. On weekends, it becomes a little more of a family decision because Wayzata Public Schools is not, our schools aren't in session. So they're not going to cancel school. They're not going to close school early. So it really becomes your decision as a family of whether or not you want your son or daughter out traveling if the weather is questionable. If a student cannot make it to a service project, we do want them to communicate to that service site directly and let them know that they can't make it due to travel conditions or not being comfortable driving under the current travel conditions. At the same time, though, we don't want students to use weather as an easy excuse to not show up. It's sometimes we might have a little bit of rain out there or whatever, and some projects will happen regardless of the weather. So some projects will say, dress for the weather. We have projects coming up this fall and it's going to start getting cold, and we want students to dress appropriately and be ready for the conditions. We will post messages about cancellations. We will post them to our Twitter feed, which then feeds onto our webpage as soon as we have that information. And we'll try to get it sent out to students via the portal, which sends them direct messages. So if they're doing projects, it's a good idea, especially if the weather is questionable, to be paying attention to their email, which is the most likely place that they're going to get information. And then again, contacting those sites, those specific sites, Interfaith Outreach or one of the senior living centers, the phone numbers are listed so students can let them know if something comes up and they can't make it due to the weather. In the end, student safety comes first. So, we do our best to serve the community, but at the same time, we need to stay safe and use reasonable and comfortable decisions with navigating Minnesota's climate.
So I'm Atharva. I'll talk a little bit about situational awareness at Club Y.E.S projects. So since there are many different organizations and places in our community, for the safety of our volunteers, it's always good for them to be aware of their general surroundings. So this includes like figuring out who's in charge, where an exit or shelter is, and where they're supposed to be helping out. We also expect volunteers to respond to emergencies appropriately. So for example, if there's a fire alarm, it means leaving a building safely. And additionally, because of the pandemic, they should also know where they can wash their hands, follow social distancing, etc. Because safety is everyone's responsibility. So if they see something that doesn't seem right, they should say something. All this might sound like a lot, but there's always other volunteers on the shift as well. Volunteers will help each other out and work as a team on most of the activities, and it's more enjoyable that way. Finally, there will also be Y.E.S project leaders for each activity, who Sydney will talk more about on the next slide.
I'm just going to add to what Atharva said, is that sometimes as ninth graders, it may be students' first experience of starting to do things on their own, learning to be more independent and taking responsibility for themselves. So having these conversations about, make sure you check in with who's in charge and always be thinking of these things, because they're becoming young adults. And while we're there to support them and help them, we want them to start thinking as a young adult. So just, understanding about thinking about what should I do if this happens, or and so forth. Sometimes our volunteers, we may only have 3 or 4 volunteers at a project, and occasionally there may only be 1 or 2. And so knowing who that adult is in charge at that organization, that's really important. Or knowing what questions to ask ahead of time and so forth. So at our larger projects, we typically have one of the Y.E.S student leaders there. And when things are very large, there's other adults and other people around. So, and that's more often the case than not. In the facilities where we're working with senior citizens and so forth, there's a lot of restrictions on what our volunteers can do. So we're putting them in, we're gradually introducing them to volunteering in the community and what it is to be taking on young adult responsibilities. If you have any questions about any of these 3 previous slides in more detail, concerned about safety, feel free to reach out to me, especially, and have your students reach out as well. Help them learn to advocate for themselves and take on their own personal responsibility.
Okay, so Club Y.E.S is a huge club. There's about 1,000 kids in it. There's 30 students on the leadership board, and the jobs of like the leadership board is we co-share service sites. So we'll send out reminders like to any of the service sites that you're volunteering at, and also get connected with the adults in charge. We plan and run meetings and more little details like that. A lot of leaders are on the Zoom call right now, but not everyone is. But just really quickly, we'll go and like you can put a name to a face and like kind of get familiar with the board leaders. I don't think we're going to introduce ourselves, but you can look at the pictures and look at the names. And also, Mrs. Badger is the program manager and advisor, and Mrs. Heyman is the program office assistant for Club Y.E.S. So they kind of do more of the administrative stuff, and they're here to support us and support you. If you have any questions, you can, on Canvas, you can find a list of the board leaders' emails, or you can email Mrs. Badger or Mrs. Heyman. And the Club Y.E.S office, where you can find Mrs. Badger and Mrs. Heyman, is located on the second floor office, right across from the main entrance. It's right by the Trojan head. So if that's a marker, that can help. And the office is open from about 7:30 to 4 on Monday and Friday when school's in session.
Monday through Friday. So every day that the students are here.
So these are some of the organizations that we serve in Club Y.E.S. We do a wide variety of service. So for example, there's working with the senior living facilities like the Birches and Cherrywood Point of Plymouth. There's working with children in elementary schools and library programs, animals with the Animal Humane Society sites. We also have partnerships with like a lot of municipalities and environmental projects. Most of these partners have a nonprofit affiliation, and this is only a few of them. We have around 50 in total that I believe we're helping. IOCP, the WHS events, the Birches are some of the biggest ones that we have, and there's many, many more. We also hope that there will be more coming back this year now that some COVID restrictions are getting better. For example, Haunted Acres and the elementary school carnivals we're not sure about, but we are hopeful that they will return.
Hello, my name is Ranjwani. I'm another Club Y.E.S leader, and I'll be talking about the Presidential Volunteer Service Award. The President's Volunteer Service Award is an opportunity for national recognition for volunteers who love community service. The application for the 2021 Presidential Volunteer Service Award will open in October 2021, and students will hear about it in announcements and newsletters. The application deadline is Friday, February 4th, 2022. This is a hard deadline. There is no flexibility, and students may pick up or download the general information flyer for details and criteria pertaining to the event and the award. Awards are presented at the Club Y.E.S Awards Night in April. Next slide. In addition to the Presidential Volunteer Service Award, there are a few other opportunities for recognition. Service to others in the community is appreciated, and in Club Y.E.S, there are these awards that recognize students when they go above and beyond. Other awards within the club are the monthly Outstanding Volunteer Award and the Prudential Spirit of Community Award. As your students come to the Club Y.E.S monthly meetings, they will learn more about these awards. That concludes our informational session. We're answering questions in the chat and via email, as we mentioned. Thank you all for attending and listening.
Thank you, and feel free to email me or check in with any of the student leaders if you have further questions. We hope your students to get to know your students soon and that they'll consider joining Club Y.E.S.